Yes, hi everybody. So what we're going to be taking a look at today is something that you all probably seen quite a few times in different classes, and that is area. So area is the total amount of space within a flat shape. So for example, if I were to grab this square here, and I wanted to figure out how much was in here, well, we'll just say that the square is 2 meters long. The nice property about squares is all the sides are the same length, so I also have this length here. So starting off with a square because it's a pretty good example to help explain this a bit. So when we're talking about area, one thing we can do instead of just saying like the total amount of space is let's break it up into smaller blocks, okay? So this is 2 meters wide, so let's cut this in half and say that each of these halves are equal. Okay. Now let's do the same thing, but let's go this way because it's also 2 meters tall. All right. So we've got 2 blocks wide, 2 blocks tall. How many are there in total? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 blocks. So if we wanted to do it like this, then we could just break it up and count it. Or I could multiply base or length times width, or width times height, base times height. There's a lot of different names you can throw at these things, but basically you're going to multiply the 2 different dimensions. In the case of a square, you're multiplying it the same thing. So the area of a square is the same as, let's do length times width. Length times width, which is the same thing as one of these sides squared. It's the same number. So in this case, we could say that the area is equal to 2 times 2, which is 4. If we remember, if we count all these up, there's 4 in total. So that's the basis of what area is. It's a shortcut for finding how much space is in this shape. We can use it by breaking it up into blocks that are 1 by 1 in length. So next, let's take a look at a different shape that's similar to a square, but it's got a little bit of differences behind it. So this is a rectangle. Now let's say that this rectangle is 3 meters long and 2 meters high. Okay. So once again, let's start with the 3. Break it up into 3. We're going to say equal parts, even though they might be a little different actually. And boom. Yeah, that definitely doesn't look even. Oh well, we'll pretend it is. All right, so if we want to find the area of the rectangle, because again, this is a rectangle. Rectangle. We multiply, same as a square, length times width. But the difference here is that the length and the width aren't the same. So for this area, I should be able to say that the number of blocks on the inside is 2 times 3, which is 6. Now, if I want to check that, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yes, I found the total amount of space inside of the rectangle by multiplying length and width. So I think I'm going to drop this aspect because y'all see that kind of works. So let's go on to the next one. So let's give ourselves another rectangle. Okay. Let's say it's got 3 on top, 4 on the side. We'll just say meters again because it's easy to write. If I want to find the area, it's going to be length times width. It's a W. And so the area is going to be equal to 3 times 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. So there we go. Now, there is one thing I haven't been doing for the other examples, and that's, since these are meters, that's meters squared. So if I were to go back here, this is also meters squared, and this is meters squared. To me, it's more important to get the number for now. We'll practice that later, but it's just important to know the dimensions. All right, so let us take a look at the next shape. So let's say we have a triangle. We'll do two different triangle examples because they're a little different. All right, now let's say that we have a base of 3 and a height of 3. Okay. So let's also say, though, that we have, just for comparison's sake, let's say we have a square that has a base of 3 and a height of 3. So we know from looking at this that if I multiply 3 and 3, I should get an area. I multiply them together, and I get an area of 9. So that's saying that this whole area is 9, right? Okay. Well, let's just say that I were to cut this. Well, yeah. Get rid of this for now. Okay, so we know that with this formula right here, with this equation formula, whatever we want to call it, this shows us that the area of this square is equal to 9, right? Okay, so let's say that I decide that I want to cut this in half. Okay. Well, no, that did not work. Well, so what would, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this, but if I have a square here and I cut it in half, what is one of these two shapes? Well, they're triangles. And I'll draw what I drew just a second ago. I'm not doing this in a very organized way, but okay, so I can say that let's just say that I rip this piece out here and I put it over here, okay? It's from the same square, but it's half of that. So this should be half of this area, right? So the equation for the area of a square is length times width, or length squared. The equation for the area of the triangle is 1/2 length times width, but with triangles we call it base times height. It's the same thing though, base times height. So here our area, we have base of 3 and a height of 3, so that's 1/2 of 3 times 3. Which I already found that 3 times 3 up here is 9, so that's 1/2 times 9, which is 4.5. So basically for a triangle, all you have to do is find the height and the base, multiply them together, and then multiply by 1/2 or divide by 2. And again, this is for a triangle. All right, so let's do another example of a triangle real quick. A slightly different version of a triangle. There we go. Now for these, you kind of have to know what the height is here. So what we're going to do is we're going to assume that the height is, say, 4 and the base is 2. Okay. So for area, it's 1/2 base times height. And so for us, it's 1/2 of 2 times 4. Not that the order matters too much, but okay. All right, so 2 times 4 is 8, so we have 1/2 times 8, and 1/2 times 8 is 4. So our area is 4, and we'll just say that these are meters 4 meters squared. Okay. All right. So let's see. All right, so that'll do it for today. If you'll have any questions, let me know. Look at the area of a circle when we deal with the circumference.